The night Anne Boleyn ordered hot chocolate from my food cart, I realized the Tower of London was tired of just being a backdrop for tourists and Netflix binges. It wanted to be the main character again. My name is Ryan. I am 47, American by birth, Londoner by bad financial decisions, and I run a food cart right outside the tower. Bacon rolls, chips, tea, coffee, hot chocolate. Nothing fancy. People always think my life sounds like some cozy British postcard, but it is not a Christmas story or a classic horror story. Most days it is just long hours, aching feet, and wondering whether this will be the year I finally go back home. The only fun I really have is horror. At night in my little flat in East London, I watch everything. Old and new horror movies, horror stories. A horror story movie if it looks trashy in the right way. I binge horror stories on YouTube, even real horror story in Hindi videos with dramatic titles like Cooney Monday Horror Story and Gully Bully Horror Story that I only half understand but still let run while I eat noodles. When I first moved here, I powered through all the AHS seasons back to back. American Horror Story Season 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to Season 8 and Season 9. Asylum American Horror Story, Coven American Horror Story, Freak Show American Horror Story, Hotel American Horror Story, Murder House, American Horror Story House, the whole thing. I could list the American Horror Story cast in my sleep. Sarah Paulson, American Horror Story Queen, with Holland Taylor as her wife in real life. Evan Peters, American Horror Story legend. Lily Rabe, American Horror Story witch vibes. Francis Conroy, floating through scenes like a cursed angel. Zachary Quinto, being a creep in American Horror Story. 1. Dylan McDermott, crying in the shower. Naomi Grossman as Pepper from American Horror Story, Freak Show and Asylum. Leslie Grossman, Billy Lord, Alexandra Breckenridge, American Horror Story icon from the early seasons. Plus all the American Horror Story characters you start to feel you actually know. I read articles about the new season of American Horror Story, New American Horror Story, American Horror Story Season 12, American Horror Story Starfall 12, American Horror Story Temporada 12, rumors about American Horror Story Season 13, or even American Horror Story 2025. I even got sucked into weird threads about Tapeworm American Horror Story, American Horror Story Facelift, and an episode breakdown that called it the American Horror Story that went too far. I am that guy who searches, where can I watch American Horror Story when a new AHS season drops, then falls down a rabbit hole of best horror movies, Christmas horror movies, American Horror Story movie rumors, horror story ideas, and short horror story playlists. My December watch list is cursed. Better Watch Out, Black Christmas, Krampus movie, a Christmas horror story, a classic horror story, some random Christmas horror story with Krampus in a mask that looks like cheap rubber. You get the picture. American Horror, the horror story, the American Horror Story, all of it. So you would think that after all of that, after hundreds of horror movies and horror stories, nothing would really get under my skin anymore. The tower disagreed. It was early November, already cold enough that the Thames had that wet metal smell that gets in your teeth. The Christmas lights were going up on the main streets, but near the tower, it was just floodlights on old stone. No jingle bells, no carolers, no Krampus cosplay, nothing like a Christmas horror story. Just the fortress, hulking and quiet, like a manor built to trap regrets instead of people. An American Horror Story manor, if you like. The wind came straight off the river and crawled under my jacket no matter how many layers I wore. Business had thinned out. Tour groups were gone, families dragging tired kids toward the tube. I was closing up, wiping down the counter, counting the last of the coins. The floodlights painted the battlements a sick yellow. Between the towers, patches of darkness held steady, like they were not interested in being lit at all. That was when I saw her. She stood past the edge of my cart's light, where the pavement met the low stone wall. At first, all I noticed was the dress. Long, dark, heavy. Not the kind of thing you see in modern London, unless someone is filming a period drama or a new American Horror Story episode. The fabric had that deep, almost black green you see in old oil paintings. A French hood framed her hair, and something about that shape poked at my memory from one of the tower info boards. She was facing the tower, not me. Tourists always angled toward my prices or the menu, but she seemed to be listening to the walls. "Evening," I called. "Last tea and hot chocolate before I shut. Better watch out, I'm nearly out of milk." Stupid joke. Automatic. My brain working on food cart script, not on horror script. She turned. Her face was pale, narrow, with dark eyes that seemed too focused for a random passerby. She had that fragile beauty you see on actresses like Lily Rabe or Alexandra Breckenridge in American Horror Story, the kind of face that can look kind or terrifying depending on the light. For half a heartbeat I thought, she looks like she could stand next to Sarah Paulson, Evan Peters, or Frances Conroy and fit right into the American Horror Story cast. Then she moved, and whatever part of me that still felt clever shut down. Her body walked toward me, her head did not. From the neck up, there was nothing. Just a clean, flickering emptiness where a throat and jaw and mouth should be. Her right arm hung by her side. Her left arm cradled something against her hip. My mind tried to protect itself. Projection, costume, some freaky performance art. Maybe a promo for a new American Horror Story season or an American Horror Story movie. Maybe it was a Christmas horror movie stunt. Maybe Krampus himself would jump out with a Santa hat and a disclaimer. Then my eyes locked onto what she was holding. It was her head. The same face. The same dark eyes. The same mouth that had not yet spoken. It rested on her arm like a football, tilted just enough that the eyes could look straight at me. They blinked once. Slowly. Deliberately. The puddle next to my cart reflected the tower walls. My cart, my own stupid, stunned face, it did not reflect her. I let the cleaning cloth slip out of my hand. It slapped the metal counter and slid down, leaving a wet trail. She came closer, skirts whispering without sound. The air around her dropped a few degrees, and the smell of the river shifted, bringing in something thicker. Iron, like blood on old metal. This is it, I thought. I have finally watched too much American Horror Story. This is what happens when a 47-year-old man spends his nights with AHS, Horror Story and Hindi playlists, and Christmas horror stories instead of going to therapy. My voice did not care about any of that. "Tea," I croaked. The lips on the head curved into a small smile that did not touch the eyes. "Do you feed them well?" she asked. Her mouth did not move when the voice came. It seemed to come from the stone, from the inside of the tower, from behind me all at once. The accent was English, old, but the words were perfectly clear. "Feed who?" I asked. "The children," she said. "The little princes." Something giggled behind her. I looked past the floating head and the empty neck and saw two boys near the low wall, just inside the glow from my cart. 10 and 12, maybe. Their clothes were wrong for any present time. Small velvet doublets and soft shoes, short cloaks that would look like costumes if they had not been worn with such unself-conscious seriousness. One held a paper cup in both hands. My paper cup. He lifted it like it was precious. "There is nothing in it," he said. His voice sounded distant and close at the same time, as if I were hearing him through an old radio turned low. The older one watched me tighter, protective in that quiet way some kids have when they have been forced to grow up too fast. "You stand here every day," he said. "You cook and you laugh and you talk, but you did not see us come." I knew enough tower lore to recognize them, even if my brain wanted to pretend I did not. The princes in the tower, the real horror story people talk about in whispers and documentaries, even when they are arguing about whether it really happened the way history says. The kind of unresolved nightmare American horror stories would turn into an episode in a manor or house where time loops and children never age. I can make you something, I said. Hot chocolate, it is good. The tourists love it. Short horror story in a cup. Sugar rush, then regret. The younger boy's eyes lit up with a sudden, painfully normal joy. The woman's head snapped back to me, eyes narrowing. The neck of her body stayed empty, a slit of absence above the collar. They had nothing warm at the end, she said. Nothing but stone, nothing but darkness. A wind rushed around us, slamming into the cart hard enough to make it rock. The awning snapped and rattled. Somewhere inside the tower, a bell began to ring. With every toll, the world thinned. For a second, I saw two realities stacked on top of each other, my stainless steel food cart and overlapping it, a rough wooden stall. Metal railings, and ghosted over them, wooden posts and ropes. Tourists in hoodies walked through, men in doublets and women in coarse wool. The tower looked the same and completely different at once, like one of those images that is two pictures at the same time. The bell kept ringing, slow and heavy. By the fourth toll, the tourists were gone. The boards with crown jewels, opening times, the neon ticket office signs, the information plaques about American tourists enjoying a classic horror story of English history, all of it vanished like steam. The only lights came from torches and a few faint windows. The river sounded louder, rawer. My cart sat there like something dropped from a sci-fi movie. The boys were still there. The woman was still there. I was still there. Everyone else had been edited out. She moved her free hand, the one not holding her head, and dipped her fingers under the edge of my cart. No flicker, no glitch. Pale skin met modern metal with a dull scrape. Every light on my cart died at once. The overhead fluorescent popped and went dark. The little LED on the card machine winked out. The radio cut mid-advertisement. The warming tray clicked off. The only illumination was the yellow wash on the tower and the small sickly halo from a distant street lamp. In the black reflective glass of my cart window, I saw my own outline, and for a split second, another figure layered over mine. A man in stiff Elizabethan clothing, eyes hollowed by years in captivity, mouth twisted in the kind of humor that comes from madness. Sir Walter Raleigh, maybe, the asylum American horror story version you do not see in the textbooks. "This is not a movie," the woman said. "This is not your American Horror Story season. This is not an episode of Coven American Horror Story or Hotel American Horror Story. You cannot turn it off and search for the next horror story movie." My chest tightened. I had never told anyone how often I thought about my own life as seasons of some long, low-budget show. American Horror Story season. Food cart. American Horror Story 4. Midlife crisis. American Horror Story 13. Man who stayed too long. Jokes I made to myself while scrubbing the grill at 11 at night. "I just work here," I said. "I am not them. I am not the ones who built this. I am not the ones who killed you or the princes or any of the others. I just stand outside and sell sandwiches." Her eyes softened for a second. Not much, just a flicker of something human. "Do you live?" she asked, "or do you wait?" Before I could answer, everything shifted again. This time, there was no gentle transition. The world snapped into a new position like a camera cutting to a different angle. I was standing at the edge of Tower Green. No cart, no modern path. The execution scaffold stood in front of me, thick wooden beams darkened with something that did not look like paint. A crowd had gathered, faces pressed in, eyes gleaming with that particular mix of excitement and dread you still see in people today when they watch a real horror story unfold on the news. On the scaffold, a woman in a simple dark gown knelt, praying quietly. Her hands shook, but her voice did not. The priest beside her murmured something, the words lost under the rustle of clothing and low talk. Off to one side, a man tested the edge of a sword, face expressionless. There was no cackle, no dramatic music, no Hotel American Horror Story style montage. Just cold air, damp grass, and people trying not to look at each other. I knew who she was. The second I saw the line of her jaw, the set of her shoulders, I knew. Anne Boleyn. The ghost I used to joke about while frying onions, asking tourists if they had seen the real Anne or just the American Horror Story version. She lifted her head and looked straight at me. For a moment it felt like every horror story I had ever watched was a cheap practice run for this. No CGI, no makeup, no Evan Peters or Sarah Paulson or Lily Rabe to comfort me by being familiar. Just a human being about to die in front of God, her king, and a crowd that would go home and turn it into gossip. The sword rose. I flinched and looked away, eyes stinging. I did not hear the classic Hollywood chop. The sound was more like a heavy thud folded into the crowd's intake of breath. When I looked up, the scaffold was empty. The crowd was gone. The green looked neat again, trimmed and calm. The glass memorial glowed faintly, as if pretending that was enough to cover everything. At the edge of the green stood the woman from my cart. Same deep green dress, head back in the crook of her arm. Her eyes shone with tears that never quite fell. "They turn it into stories," she said. "They sell it as a Christmas horror story, a classic horror story, a manor tour, a short horror story for bored children. They argue about whether it is the best horror movie scene. They watch American Horror Story, pepper the script with our names. They forget that it hurt. They forget that we were like you." My knees gave up. I dropped onto the damp ground, jeans soaking through instantly. My hands dug into the grass, into the earth that had drunk every drop. "I am sorry," I said, not as a line, not as an American Horror Story character trying to get redemption before the credits, just as a man who suddenly felt the weight of 500 years pressing on his shoulders. "I am sorry for all the jokes, for treating this like background, for using you as horror story ideas and not as people." She watched me. Behind her the tower loomed, full of names and screams and silence. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, had haunted an American Horror Story season in my Netflix queue. Real men just like him, and worse, had walked these courtyards in chains. Some had swung the blade, some had knelt under it, some had starved in cells under the river line. None of them were special effects. "Remember," she said, "that is all we have left." The wind shifted again. My cart lights flickered back to life with a harsh buzz. The radio came on, halfway through an advertisement. A bus rolled by on the main road, its brakes squealing. The info boards about guided tours were back. The torches were electric bulbs again. The princes were gone. The scaffold was gone. The woman was gone. On my counter sat a paper cup full of hot chocolate. Steam curled up into the cold air. The surface of the drink still swirled, as if someone had just stirred it. I had not turned the gas back on. I had not touched the kettle. My hands were still pressed into the damp grass. Next to the cup lay a coin. It was heavier than modern coins and warmer than it had any right to be. On one side I could just make out a crowned shield and a date rubbed nearly smooth. 1536, or close enough that I did not want to check again. I took the coin. I threw the hot chocolate away. Since that night, my life looks the same from the outside. I still stand there in the cold, selling tea and coffee to tourists who ask me for directions or complain about the prices. I still go home and sometimes scroll through AHS threads, reading about new American Horror Story trailers. American Horror Story Season 13 Rumors, American Horror Story 12 Cast, American Horror Story 13 Release Date, watching people argue about whether Asylum American Horror Story is better than Coven American Horror Story, or whether Freak Show American Horror Story should have ended differently. I still see posts about American Horror Story Tapeworm Episode Explained, American Horror Story Facelift Reaction, American Horror Story Season 8 versus American Horror Story Season 9, American Horror Story 4 Rewatch, Hotel American Horror Story Review, American Horror Story Movie Potential, American Horror Story seasons ranked, and watch American Horror Story free. I still click on Christmas horror movies in December. Better watch out. Black Christmas, Krampus movie, A Christmas Horror Story, a classic horror story. I still think deep down that American Horror Story, the American horror we export everywhere, is brilliant television. But now, when people ask me for horror story ideas while they drink, or tell me about some real horror story they saw on YouTube, or share a short horror story they read, I feel something tighten at the base of my neck. Because the tower is not a set. It is not American Horror Story Manor or American Horror Story House. It is not a streaming category. It is layered time and layered pain. It is a place where someone like me, a 47-year-old guy who used to think his life was boring, can get folded into an episode he did not ask to be part of. Every so often, just after sunset, when the crowds thin and the wind from the river goes still, I hear it. A soft giggle near the wall. I look up and see nothing. No children, no costumes, no prank, just a crushed paper cup lying on the stone where the younger prince once stood in front of me. A faint ring of dried chocolate around the rim, and a sticky fingerprint too small for any adult. On 2 nights, I have left a fresh cup of hot chocolate on the edge of the cart and turned away for a minute. When I looked back, half of it was gone. No one on CCTV, no footsteps, no scam. Just the sense that somewhere, 2 boys who never got to grow old had finally tasted something warm at the end of the day. Sometimes a customer asks, "Hey man, real talk, is this place actually haunted, or is that just marketing, like an American Horror Story for tourists?" I think about Anne. I think about the princes. I think about the heavy coin in the small box at home, next to the things I do not show anyone. I think about how for them there is no season finale, no new season of American Horror Story, no American Horror Story 2025 promo to move on to, just one long cold loop. Then I answer the only way I can. This is not my story, I say. This is their real horror story. I am just the guy who finally stopped laughing at it. And when they walk away, shaking their heads, I look up at the tower and in my head, I say the same thing every night. I remember.